for our seminar, Protect Yourself Against Fraud. Our instructor today is going to be Pat Holmes. She's with the OSU Extension Program. So I'm going to turn it over to Pat.
And I'm located right here in Montgomery County. I did not drive from Columbus today. I live in Montgomery County. I'm a family and consumer sciences educator. Years ago, that was called home economics. So any topic that relates to individuals and families, huge variety of things is part of my subject matter that I teach. We also have a 4-H youth development educator in our office that works with youth. We are waiting to hire, in the process of hiring a new ag educator as ours retired at the end of last month. So we also have 5, soon to be 6 program assistants that teach nutrition education, SNAP Ed, and FNEP, Expanded Food and Nutrition Education Program, FNEP. And that program also is taught by CSU Extension, Central State, here in Montgomery County, by Donna Kay, and some of you know Donna, maybe. So we try not to compete, we try to work together and cooperate. I just saw Donna day before yesterday, at the food summit at Sinclair College, and got a chance to talk to her. I hadn't seen her since the pandemic, so that was sort of nice to get reacquainted. The program that we have, this is why I needed the water. Temperature changes, weather changes. The program for today is about protecting yourself against fraud. And I started teaching it a couple of years ago, maybe a year ago. COVID time gets a little bit mixed up for me because these books came out. So these are a little over a year old. They are from the FDIC. You see that, those initials on your banks, local banks, they insure the money that you put in the bank. And the CFPB, which is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, that is a relatively new organization. It's a national one that was developed or created when President Obama was our president. And so he was looking out for consumers. When I was growing up, there was something sort of like that, a version of that, and that was protecting consumers and teaching consumers how to take care of themselves, but then we hadn't had that for a number of decades. So good to have that back in place. And they came up with this wonderful, true, solid science-based, research-based booklet that you get to take with you that is a resource. And most of all, I want you to know, I'm encouraging you to become your own advocate for your own finances and for your own safety in preventing fraud. Does that mean we will all be successful at that, including myself in there when I say we? Then no, not necessarily. But if we try to help each other, that's a good thing. So be your own health, also, but financial advocate, but also in doing that, share with others. So I brought an extra 20 books here so that if you want one for somebody else, you can do that. And the church knows how they can get more either through me or by ordering these online. What's wonderful is, first of all, it's large print. As I get older, I'm appreciating that more and more. Secondly, it's free to the extent that they do not even charge postage or shipping and handling for them even if you order a bulk order. Third, you could just read it online if that's what you prefer. So the website that's in here will point people toward that. And they'll be able to find this book online, or even by saying Money Smart for older adults, it usually will pop up the page for that. So several things that I do like about that. The reason we're concerned about financial exploitation is stated right here in the front of the book. There was a study of the 21st century with one study suggesting that older Americans lost at least $2.9 billion to financial exploitation in the year 2010. And from a variety of perpetrators, not just a certain description of somebody and that's it. And so we'll look at some of that, but awareness is really the first step in protecting yourself against fraud and scams that are out there. I wish I could tell you, I'm going to tell you exactly what to not do, exactly what to do, and that's all you would need to know. But it's not that easy. So first I want to sort of walk you through what's in the book, and then we can go back and look at a topic that maybe several of you might be interested in talking about, and we can have a conversation about that and try to get you as many answers as we can today. And if I can't, I brought a tablet to write some notes on so that I could go back and try to find you the answer to the question that you may be asking. As part of the reason I can't say, look for this, don't do that, it's a red flag, is as soon as we put something on paper or tell people this is a scam, don't fall victim to it. Then those that are out there are spending lots of time coming up with new versions of that. So that's what I really want you to know. There are new versions all the time. I'm old enough to start seeing repeat versions of things. So when it comes to even the telephone, we used to say, tell them, put me on your do not call list, take my number off of your list. And now the Attorney General for the state of Ohio and other Attorney Generals are saying, do not even talk to them. Don't get angry and say nasty things. Don't raise your voice. Ideally, don't say anything. Just hang up the phone. They are using robocalls technology to just call one number after the other. That's why you get to the phone and it's rung 2 or 3 times and they've already hung up, or it's only rung once and you finally get to the phone, pick it up, there's nobody there. It could be somebody called a wrong number. So part of my purposefulness today is not to create a panic for anybody, not to make you frightened. So if you're going there, talk to somebody else, talk to me before you leave, but to just create this awareness that in the front of the book, it's telling you is the first step. So let's look at the next page, page 3. When I did this program with the city of Dayton Wise summer before last, and then this past year I did it with some of the libraries, Dayton Metro Library. And the librarians loved this feature and some features in the back that I'll tell you about. Because there's this lovely table of contents that has these different topics that are in here. So some of you might be people that sit down and read front to back on a book like this. I do if it's for work, but if it's for me personally, that's not the way I'm going to use it. So use it the way it works best for you. But I have a brother-in-law who literally in the day of encyclopedias, 3 times through has read front to back the encyclopedia set. Because that's the way his brain deals with topics and things, and that's what he enjoys doing. So we're all the same, but we're also different, so do what works best for you. You can see that there are some topics that are saying, I won't find the one now that I'm looking for, avoiding telephone and internet scams, phantom debt collection, avoiding charity. When you look back in here on the pages, there's some that say, what is this? And they define it and describe it a little bit more. How do I know if I've been scammed by this method? What do I do if I have been scammed? On page 95, another librarian's loved it feature is a glossary. It's alphabetical, and so if there's a term that's being talked about and you don't know what it is, here's your glossary, your dictionary of the terms, so that you can know what it is that you're reading about. On page 98, after that, is who to contact for further information. And so here it talks first about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB, and the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC, the two that put together this book, followed by other entities that could be related to fraud that you might need access to. Okay. So they have phone numbers. They sometimes have a website in there with their description so that it gives you a way to reach them. They've also put that throughout the book so that you got more than one way to find how do I get hold of these folks that I'm needing to reach. You don't even have to be necessarily going to the back, but you could go to the back of the book and know that that's where you're going to find how to contact these key entities that deal with fraud of some sort. There is even on the very last page, Social Security Administration contact information. And the biggest thing that's going around right now is scams from the government, either related to IRS and taxes or Social Security, things related to health, Medicare, Medicaid, where people are calling you trying to get you to change over to their program, to say yes or to hit the button or to click on a link or whatever. So be very cautious with that. And then when you're emailing to somebody or you're texting to somebody, don't just send the message. Give them your name at least your first name or some hint that you've talked to them before. Because at work, I get emails from people saying, I need to get my food safety manager certification. Well, that's a program that I offer, and I proctor those exams right here in Montgomery County in our offices in Jefferson Township. But if somebody just sends that to me and wants me to send it to them, I really don't know who I'm sending information to unless I've previously talked to the person and their name's on it. Sometimes it's just I need to get message in my emails. And so just remember, as we've gotten with our smartphones, where they identify people and all, just know sometimes that's not happening because you may be contacting somebody that doesn't know you. But I probably get 2 or 3 of those a week related to work, where nobody's given me a name or anything, so I'll usually email back and say, if you want to share your phone number, I'll give you a call, tell me what's the best time of day, because it's a little bit of a complicated process if you're just looking at the paperwork. There are key things I want to be sure I'm answering their questions before they invest, because it does cost to get that certification. So I don't want to be taking people's money and then them saying, oh, that's not what I wanted. This is what I actually need. So I want to have a conversation. Or I offered, because they don't know me, I then will also offer, or you can call me at this number. I'm in the office today, these times, tomorrow, these times, when you would be able to reach me by calling that number. So think about the way that we're communicating as technology has moved fast forward, especially during the pandemic. It's been very helpful in some ways, but in other ways, it creates potential problems and challenges to us. So I wanted to sort of go back, and back in here, around page 89, there's even a quiz in there. If you're a person who likes to challenge yourself and see, what do I know? Do I know the answers to these things? You could even take that quiz yourself. So then I thought that it might be important for us to think in terms of some of the things related to elder financial exploitation, which is really the theft of money or property or belongings. Can happen for a lot of different reasons. Why do you think that older adults happen to be more at risk nationwide? What do you think? They may not be able to hear well. They may either misunderstand what's being said or be afraid that somebody's going to report that they have this hearing loss and somebody's going to come out to my house, and so the list goes on. And you know, for African Americans, for Black Americans, there's legitimate reasons why you don't trust. There are legitimate reasons. I just want to acknowledge that. And I'm sorry about that. I wish I could fix it all, undo it all, but I can't. So the most I can do is become an ally so that everybody, all minorities in the Montgomery County area that I serve, that I'm reaching out to everybody to try to help everybody. So what are other reasons why you think older adults might be at risk?
I think it's because a lot of times older adults look for attention.
They are lonely.
Yeah.
My husband passed away 5 years ago. I'm lonely. But I keep trying to continue on working because I find it fulfilling, the work that I'm able to do to help others. But if I were not working, I really can get the sense, I mean, the first few days after he passed, I actually ended up going back in the office after 3 or 4 days. Because what I found was I was just sitting. And my thoughts about things were getting a little skewed. I was getting irritated by the things that irritated me only a little bit before, and now they were irritating me a lot. And I just went, I just need to see people and interact with people. And once family left from the being there all the time after a couple of days, those next couple of days were pretty rough. And it continues on. It's not something that goes away, that whole grieving process. But so you have older people who, just like you say, are separated from interactions with folks, who may have family nearby, may have family across the country where they don't see each other very often. They have grown up in a society where they were maybe taught to be trusting and polite and to help others. And if your family comes to you asking for money, and I'm saying this because sometimes it is family members that are exploiting our seniors.
Don't say
But sometimes,
No, I'm not telling you anything, but yeah.
but sometimes older people is not as swift on thinking like they used to.
Yeah, they don't understand.
They go ahead, so I will go ahead and share. I got a phone call, and they were nice and they were chatting with me. And I thought, is this a scam? I even thought that, is this a scam? I shouldn't be talking to this person. They asked me a question about personal information. And as I started to open my mouth to say that, the answer to them, I went, this is a scam. And I hung up. Why did I do that instead of give them the answer that they were asking for, the personal information? Because I was aware of the fact that scams are out there. So my hope is we're adding an extra layer of protection for all of you. And I know that I cannot teach to everyone. If you become advocates for yourself, and in doing that, you talk with others about this topic, then you are being my voice to others farther than I could ever reach. So I hope that that's what will happen from this group of folks that are here today. And if you decide you want me to come back to talk about it again, because when the weather's better or something, we can do that. But I also have the ability to bring or help your pastor and the church order some more of these books so that every person in the church can have it. I've gone to several apartments, senior housing apartments, over 55 plus, sometimes they're handicapped folks, and done this program. So one of the apartment resident coordinators said, I want to get a book for all 200 of the people in this apartment. So we made it happen. She ordered some, I ordered some, and we got them so she could distribute to everybody. So my goal is to get the word out there. And you can help me by doing that, okay? Elders are also more at risk because they may have, over their lifetime, accumulated a little bit of wealth. It might be very little, or it might be a good chunk. And so they're polite and they're trying to help people, and people tell them stories that are not truthful stories. So I got one of those grandparent phone calls. Only they didn't know I didn't have a grandson. I only have granddaughters. And so I immediately knew, and I let them talk for a while, and then I just hung up. So I wasn't saying anything, I was just listening, because by listening, I could sort of hear some of the kinds of ploys they use to tug on the heartstrings. You know, if I thought one of my grandchildren were at risk and were desperate and had no money, I would do anything and everything. I don't like to fly. I would fly to them to get them money and stuff. Or in today's world, I could send it, not even by mail. I could send it on my smartphone. So it's very easy, and because they are older adults are lonely, we have that whole romance scam thing that's also making its rounds. And they put a picture on that isn't even them, almost always. They promise they're coming, and then, oh, they need more money for something else, some other tragedy. And so, you don't know these people, don't do that, please don't send them money, because they're scam artists. They do not care how many people they call, because all it takes is calling, let's say, 10 people who give them $500. Now my math without writing it down is not really good, but I think that's 5,000. They would have $5,000 just from sitting and making a few phone calls. Often they are in other countries. Not always though, but often. So much so that we've sometimes identified some scams as the Nigerian scam. We've identified a country because there's so many calls coming out of that country that have been traced that are those kinds of calls. So we just have to be very careful. I've talked about most of those kinds of things. The grief fits in there. When you turn over to page 6, there's another whole list of reasons why older adults might fall victim to this. But if you look at those, and you're younger, because I've got some younger folks in here today, at least I think I do. Definitely younger than me. I'm getting ready for a birthday next month, so I'm quite aware of that age thing. But these things also could apply to people that are younger, couldn't they?
Right.
Because you might have younger folks who have accumulated the beginnings of some wealth, who then hear somebody telling them a very sad story. So even charity, donation kinds of things can be fraudulent. You need to not do anything immediate, and if they're forcing you to, by saying, or trying to force you by, or you feel that pressure, because they're saying, this offer's only good now, that immediately tells you this is a scam. Whether it's a home repair person that's come to your house wanting to replace your roof, or fix your porch, or change out your windows, if the offer is only good now, that is definitely a red flag. A giant red flag waving, trying to get your attention. This may not be truthful. Okay? In our world, we are hearing a lot of untrue things being said by folks. Folks whose positions we in the past would have totally trusted. But now we hear untruths coming out. And we've heard it for so many years now that people are starting to not pay attention to that. Don't stop paying attention to what your gut and what that red flag concept gives you. Do pay attention. Some examples of financial exploitation there on the bottom of page 6, they list those. Yes?
I had a question. You know, there's commercials that come on, and they say, this item is for sale right now for this price. Then they say, but wait. Right? You know, there's more.
Yeah.
You know, is that a scam?
Well, it depends on whether you truly need the item, or have they just made it sound so much like you need it that they've convinced you you need this thing. Is it a scam? Does everybody really need this? Is the thing that they're selling, when you get it, is it even what they described it to be?
It look good.
And sometimes what you get isn't even close to it. I'll recall back to my daughter when she was little, and she wanted a certain Barbie doll, and it danced around and the commercials and all, and twirled and everything. She asked for it for Christmas and got it, and she said, this doesn't even do what it says it did. Well, as a mom, I wasn't even stopping to explain to her, now it's not really going to do all that on its own. There's somebody whose hands you can't see that's twirling that doll around. And I knew that, but I didn't. So her comment really woke me up to thinking about those kinds of things. But you're describing it in a different way. That's why I sort of go, well, because it could be perfectly legit. I mean, sometimes but if you order now within the next so many seconds or minutes, we will send you not 1, not 2, but 3, all for the same price. You just pay the additional shipping and handling. Now, my question is there really additional shipping and handling? Is where my brain goes with that. Or are they just adding on an extra $10, $15, $25 per item because now we've convinced people they need more? So my mom, before she passed, she was doing shopping as a therapy of sorts. She didn't call it that, but that's what she was doing because my dad had passed. And she went shopping and she got stuff. And if it said 10 for a certain price, now I'm here to tell you, if it says 10 for 10, then 1 is 1.
Correct.
And unless they've got a sign there that says this price only if you purchase 10. So she's the only person in the house buying 10 of this and 5 of that and lots of other things. So when she ran through his whole life savings and didn't have money for the farm insurance bill, I loaned that to her. Actually, I gave it to her, but she considered it a loan. I said, okay, it's a loan. And then I sat down with her to talk about finances. And I taught her to shop and unshop. So what we know from the science research is when there's something about reaching up to the shelf and bringing something down that they've discovered sets those positive, good endorphins into the brain, thing that makes us feel good. So I said, non-science explanation, but question. What if you take your hand from down here and you put it back up on the shelf and you come down? Is it the bringing the item down that you've looked at, or is it the hand motion that does it? I have no clue. There's no research on that, so don't quote me as having said that's research. But so I said, shop and enjoy it, Mom. Put everything in your cart you want. Then here's a thought. What if you, once you were done shopping, I was unleashing danger, wasn't I? She thought I was going to pay the bill. And so then look at each item in your cart. Now, I used to work in a hardware store. I said, don't just set the things out that you don't really want. Unshop. Go back around through the store where you got that thing and put it back in its place. If you got 3 of them, 5 of them, or 10 of them, do you need that many? Do you even need 1? Ask yourself these questions and then unshop. And then, and when you're doing that, pull off to the side. Don't be in the center of the aisle, because that's what, as I'm getting older, I notice that I'm tending to do what I saw older people doing. I stop where I am, which is the middle of the aisle, blocking everybody, not being aware, because they're behind me, that I'm blocking them. So she tried that, and she didn't run out of money anymore. She didn't have more income coming in, but she had rethought how she was spending her money and found that she had more than enough to do all the things she had to pay for, plus the things that she wanted to do. So it just, lots of different financial exploitation kinds of things, lots of things that we as human beings can fall into. I also teach mindful wellness, and in that we're saying do it on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. So I'm really big into teaching people to be their own advocates, period. Advocate for yourself. If you have thoughts that rumble through your head that are saying negative things about you, try to undo that if you can. Or go to talk to someone, your pastor. I'm sending them to you now. Are you ready for that?
Right.
Your pastor, or a counselor, or your doctor, to say this is what's going on. Because sometimes you need medication, but sometimes it's just a different way of thinking and taking time to slow the pace and taking time to, if I hold this and hold it, how much stress in those muscles, if I'm not moving, pretty soon I'm wanting to do this, then I'm wanting to do this, then I'm wanting to set it down. Just set down your stress those times when you can. We can't always undo the stress that's around us, but sometimes we can choose to set it down and slow the pace, even for a minute or two, can be huge now. Okay, let's go on to who are the abusers. And I hinted at that before. that it could be family members or caregivers. They could be hired caregivers. It could be friends or acquaintances, people in the neighborhood. Could be somebody that has your power of attorney. That doesn't mean you don't have a power of attorney. It means you choose who you're giving that to, and you think about that before you make that decision, and know that you can change who that is. And that's on page 7. There's those romance scams, the list goes on and on. Fraudulent debt collectors, financial advisors, internet scammers, home repair contractors, Medicare scam operators, and other persons known or unknown to the older adult. This is why I say, I'm not here to panic you. We want to be aware, and then we want to be thoughtful about the choices that we're making. And if people are calling us saying that they are our bank, or we've won a prize, and you just pay me so much money and I'll send the money to you, warning flags. Because what you want to do is, if it's like a bank or someplace where you operate, or you're somebody you work with, or Social Security or IRS, they're not going to be calling you and telling you, you know, we've got a case, we're filing a case against you. If you send us money, then we won't file a case. We won't take you to court.
I had somebody, one time this was some years ago, I was selling some stuff online, in the marketplace, and, somebody had messaged me and told me they was interested, they was gonna get it, and that they was gonna send me a check, and that she was gonna have some movers to come get the items. But, so I waited on the check to come to the mail, and I'm just thinking like, okay, I'm gonna get rid of this stuff, you know. So I got the check, it was way over the amount that I was asking for. And she gave me the instructions, like just cash it, and then you can give the change to, you know, the movers when they pick it up or whatever, or just paying for the moving fee or something. So I had to think about it, like, why would she send me so much money and then want me, and trust me, she don't even know me, and trust me to, so I never cash it. So I'm assuming that if I would have cashed it, it would have messed up my banking, you know,
They
situation.
do that because you cash the check isn't good.
Yeah.
And the check is to an account of somebody who's had a piece of mail, for instance, stolen from the post office outside boxes. And so somebody else is paying for it, but usually you end up paying double. You cash it, you spend it, and now you have to give the money back from your bank account to take care of that bad check that was written. And they've scooted out of there. They're gone with the amount of money that they were having you give the movers. And that's okay with them, because they don't work a 9-to-5 job. They're sitting there letting their computer roll one call after another, trying to get to people, or they're on the marketplace or the website doing scams to the people that are on there. The other thing I would say related to that is, if somebody's going to come and pick up stuff, or you're selling items, most police stations will have a place where there's a camera. So you want to go to a place that is well-known. You want to let the police know that you're coming to meet somebody for them to pick up such and such. And then when you leave there, don't go directly home, because sometimes the scam is actually follow you home, and now we know where you are, and now we'll watch, because they're patient. They've got all the time in the world. We'll watch your comings and going, we'll see a pattern, and we can break in. Because everybody's probably got a computer in today's world, if not multiples. And they're usually not carrying it with them every place they go. So it's so contorted. I hope I'm not making you totally upset. I feel the tension inside of myself as I'm talking about it. Thinking, okay, this is another point where I need to actually remind us, we're not here to become frightened and afraid. If we are, we're gonna talk to somebody about it. Get a good friend who's gonna not go, oh, poor you, a good friend who's gonna say, hey, you know what? That sounds like that isn't a legitimate thing. That's not real. Sounds like you shouldn't be doing that. And you have this network in your church now. If you haven't looked around at who all's here, be sure you do that, because now all of these people have heard the same thing you've heard. So you leave from here and you go, well, she said, did she mean this? Did she? Pastor, Anita, somebody's gonna call me and say, hey, Pat, can you come back to talk to us again? Because these are the questions that are cropping up. Because I'm not gonna leave you high and dry, okay? I'm gonna do my best to find answers. Even if that means I find somebody, I have a friend who works for the Office of Ohio Consumers Council, or Ohio's Office of Consumer Council, OCCO, and she does fraud prevention. But she had right before the pandemic, she was asking me if I would work with her and somebody from the U.S. Post Office to go around and do programs in Southwest Ohio. And I was interested in it, but COVID hit, and so I just went, maybe not. And so I can also, through her, access that other person. Or we can also go to the Ohio Attorney General's office and ask our questions. So there are multiple places, in addition to what all's in this book, where we can get answers to questions that you have. Main thing on this, who are the abusers? Lots of people that you wouldn't expect that would be on the list. Some that you would expect to be on the list, okay? They could be known by the older adult or not. So the reality with fraud and scams is that older adults do not report that they've been scammed at a very high percentage. It's almost nil compared to younger folks who get scammed. They report it. So I ask you, why do you think that is happening? Because that's a data statistic that we know.
Fear.
Fear, yeah, they don't know who to report it to.
Fear, they don't know who to report it to, and fear of, tell me more.
Well, I'm just saying this fear that maybe they'll come after them or about coming to their home or something like that.
Fear of the perpetrator that's doing the scam,
Right.
or there's another fear in there. If I shame
Yeah.
is a version of it.
Embarrassment.
Pride gets in the way often, doesn't it?
Yeah, they're embarrassed.
Embarrassment,
Mhm.
fear that my kids will find out and they will report me and I will have to go into assisted living or nursing home. I will no longer be able to live in my own home because I made a bad decision, and so they're going to assume that every decision I make is bad. And now my freedom to be in my own space where I want to be is going to be taken away from me. That's probably one of the biggest ones. It could be loyalty to the person, because if it's a family member, I mean, people in families help families, right? But sometimes families are not nice to each other too. Sometimes families can do some things that are very hurtful to other members of their family, sadly. And so look out for those around you. Don't be one of those people that's taking advantage of someone in your family. Self-blame can kick in part of all that we talked about, in terms of, I should have known better. Those little voices in their head keep see, I never could do anything right. Again, I'm not smart enough. I can't. So So negative thoughts that they've had previously sort of get amplified and ramped up in their thinking. And sometimes they don't report it because they aren't even aware that they've been scammed. I was watching Dr. Phil one day when I was home from vacation, thinking, what am I doing watching this show? And there was a lady who had been romance scammed for, it's a huge amount of money. I mean, even 50,000 is a lot of money to me, but it was way over that. And it was, I love you, I want to marry you, I don't have money to come there, send me money, oh, something happened with that plane and it could, and so it's going to cost me more to get that, because they wouldn't transfer the ticket to another time. It just went on and on and on, and she spent her whole life savings. She's on Dr. Phil's show. He's trying to help her understand that she's been scammed, that this was not legitimate, that this isn't a real person. He even found the person whose picture was used on it and brought the person in on video, Zoom or something, to Facebook or something, to show her that this is who this person is, and no, he is not the person that's been sending these emails. And at the end of the show, she still was convinced that that guy or gal was legit and needed more money. So she couldn't be convinced. So it just sort of goes on and on and on.
You know, sometimes people can talk a good game. You know, they can talk it up. You know, and you end up falling for everything. You know, sometimes you could sell stuff to people when they're not even in the mood to buy. You know, you can just sell it to them if you come at them the right way and touch on some things that you think they might like. Hey, they got you know hook them, and then you just start adding other stuff to it. You know, and it's easy to be done. You know, a lot of people fall for that.
I gotta spend that much money on you before I even meet you. I'm somewhere. That sounds like she could have bought her a few houses or something like that.
She was good.
But again, she's older, she's probably lonely. Well, I'm older, but I'm not lonely. I'm 81 years old, but I'm not lonely because I'm busy all the time. You know.
And so then on page 9, it's saying what should you do if you or someone you know becomes a victim of financial exploitation or another form of elder abuse. And it refers you to Adult Protective Services at the Elder Care Locator. That's a national thing. But sometimes people just hear Adult Protective Services and they cringe too, because now you're taking away my right to be in my own home. So think about that. Here's identitytheft.gov, and there's more information at consumerfinance.gov/askcfpb, so you can find even more resources that are available. But that next to the last paragraph, remember that you are often not responsible for credit card charges or payments out of your bank account if you did not authorize them. Also reminds me to say to you while I'm here, debit cards, that is not true of. So sometimes people think debit cards are better. For this reason, they are not, because anybody that gets hold of that number and uses that as a debit purchase, you cannot get your money back. If you purchased it as a credit, that credit card, then you can say, I did not purchase that, I did not receive that information, that item, and get your money back. So that piece of financial information. Okay, let's look back at this list. So everybody came here, and usually I will start with saying, what brought you here? What is it that you want to learn about? So think about what brought you here. And is there anything on this list that we want to sort of look through so that you can sort of learn? I want your fingers to go walking through the white pages here with me so that I feel like, okay, if you needed to look something up, you'd be more comfortable with doing that. So do you see a topic on that page 3 table of contents that several of you might be interested in? And it could be different topics, then we can take a vote, which one we're gonna talk about first. I've talked about
How about,
several of them already,
Charity scams,
okay?
avoiding charity scams.
I'll find it.
That's kind of.
There it is.
41.
Page 41. Okay, so that's one topic. What's another topic that you're interested in? Before we look at that
Planning for unexpected life events.
one. Okay. Help me remember that we're gonna go back to that then. That's on page 67. Let's go first to avoiding charity scams and see what kind of information we have in here. So, this first sentence reminds me that just because somebody's asking for money doesn't necessarily mean you're giving them money for that thing. Take time to pause and think about it and check it out, because it says, if you're considering a request for a donation to a charity. And we also have GoFundMe pages. Some of those are perfectly legit and real, and there's a need. Sometimes there's really not that great of a need for it. Take time to check out the thing you're thinking about giving money for. Again, if it becomes, we need it right now, send it today, then that's sort of a little red flag going, okay, take a pause here. Think about this, talk about it with somebody else before I make this decision. And so by taking that time and that pause and checking it out, you are more likely to not fall victim to fraud by doing just that. And it gives you, again, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, .gov/charity fraud. Better Business Bureau has a section on their website that's related to charities too. And so a lot of people in Montgomery County know about Better Business Bureau and have used that in the past. You used to, when I was growing up in this county, it was you called on the phone to ask them about, and now it's on a website where you can manipulate and check out the stuff yourself. And so here on the next page on 42, it talks about signs of a charity scam. I'm going to let you have a chance to sort of read that a little bit. And then I'm going to ask what things are popping out at you that are important about being able to recognize the signs of a charity scam. Is there something that's new on there that you didn't know? Are there things, if you find stuff in this book that you already knew, it's not a waste of your time. Pat yourself on the back. Yes, very good. You already knew that. But it may tell you in a different, slightly different way. Remember, the scam's not going to look exactly the same all the time. There's going to be different versions from those people who are actually doing it as a scam. Sometimes the more things they say they'll send me, like we're sending you a blanket and we're going to send you a shirt and it's a such and such brand shirt with such and such, and to show the world that you've, you know, that's all good, but I want to say to them, keep the money for the shirt or the blanket or the whatever and use it for the charity. So that then leads me to say, you might want to check out what is their budget and their account. what percentage of the money that they collect in donations are they using for the purpose of that, or is it all salaries for people that are working the charity? I mean, there's nothing, it's not illegitimate that they might be putting some of the money towards staffing, but if they're only putting 5 or 10% of what you send them to actually go to the purpose of the thing that you're trying to help with, you know, maybe that is, or maybe it is not, becomes your choice. And I'm a person that loves choices. So each person will choose slightly differently what to do. The most important thing is thinking it through in the beginning before you've done it, instead of thinking it through after you've done it. Sometimes they thank you for a pledge that you don't even remember you made a pledge. I've gotten some that have sent me certificates thanking me for my current year donation. I haven't sent them a donation yet this year. You just sent me the request. That's a pressure kind of thing. So if you're feeling pressured, you don't need to, if you feel pressured, there's nothing wrong with you, but that is the red flag for you to stop and pause and think and talk it over with somebody else that you trust. Asked you for donations in cash, or asked you to wire money, or sometimes other scams are asking you to send gift cards in small denominational amounts, no more than $20 or $50 each, and that's how you pay for the thing. That's a scam. Because even if they cash in those gift cards at places that will cash them in, they're only getting a percentage of the money back. So you have already cut it. It doesn't all make sense and add up when you start looking at it, and you have to have time in order to look at those pieces. The last one guarantees sweepstakes winnings in exchange for a contribution. By law, you never have to give a donation to be eligible to win a sweepstakes. You never have to purchase something in advance in order to be entered in a sweepstakes. And we've noticed in the last 20, 25 years, differences in wordings in the way those things are coming out, because now but sometimes, so they'll say, if you have a donation, mark this box or put this sticker on the outside of the envelope. If you haven't put a donation in this envelope, put this sticker on there or mark no donation. Well, you know, what's happening? Donations. Okay, we'll put them into the sweepstakes. No donation, no donation. Round circular file. What other kinds of things pop up there to you? Sort of in the middle, about the third or fourth one down, uses a sound-alike name that closely resembles, you know, American Cancer Society, American Society of for Cancer, or of Cancer. There have been things like that. Heart Association, I've been in meetings where somebody from the Heart Association talks about there's a scam going around and it says this, but that's not really us. That's some other entity. They sound like something that they're trying to tweak your emotional heartstrings.
I've come across that as well too.
Yeah, and I'll feel guilty if I don't do that. Police and fire. Police especially, sheriff's department maybe. I've called the local sheriff and said, you know, I got a phone call, they're saying thus and so. I told them, send me things because I don't do things on the phone. This was before my husband passed. And he said, that's not us. Our officers don't see any benefits to that. And the money wasn't even going to someplace in Ohio. It was going to another state. And I went, so I'm telling on myself here. I want you to know this can happen to anybody. My husband and I sent a check 2 years in a row before I decided to question and call the local sheriff to say, are you receiving benefits from this? They sent this, it's saying it's the such and such, such and such. I sent donations 2 years, wasn't huge. Send us money and we'll send children to some kind of circus. We had that one in the past. Tweaking my heartstrings. Yes, I want to help those kids be able to go to a circus. Or go to see, I don't know, some movie or show or play or something, you know. First, I need to check to see locally, is there somebody that's actually doing that? Because if I just go by my heart and my good intentions, my money may be being wasted. I work hard for my money. I enjoy the work I do. That's the wonderful part. But yeah, think about it. Take a pause and enough time to ask the questions, to do some research on it. So often when they're calling me, if I do pick up, then I'm saying, you can send me something in the mail. If they say, well, then we'll need your address, I just hang up. Because they've already called telling me that they know where I am. They know who I am. Oh, you don't have my address? No. I'm not going to give it. Because now it's given me enough time in the conversation to do. So yesterday I was home for most of Veterans Day, and I got 5 phone calls. The first one almost started my day off in a woe is me, poor Pat mode that my grandmother always said, if you get to that point and have a pity party, Patsy, don't you do it. You have not looked around. You get up and you look around you because somebody else is worse off than you are. So this was somebody asking for my husband. Deceased over 5 years. Did I tell them, no, he's deceased, please remove his name from your list? No. And so I said, they said, can we speak to him? And I said, no. And I thought, you are being ornery here. And then they asked it a different way, and I said, no. And then they said something again, and I said, no. And they said, we'll call back later. That phone number, because of caller ID, I looked, that phone number was not one of the other 4 calls that came through. So I had 5 scam calls on my home phone, not my cell mobile phone, yesterday alone.
Wow.
And I remember that my husband used to say, they have called here at least 15 times, and every time, by the time I get to the phone, they've hung up. So he wasn't far off, because it just in that one day I experienced 5 of them. So just be cautious with that. Caller ID. Attorney General's office is saying, use that caller ID. If it says unknown, undisclosed, or some version of that, just don't answer it. Tell your friends and the people you work with that if they call you and you don't answer, to please leave a short message. This is so-and-so. Give me a call back when you get a chance. Call me when you can. And they'll call you back. Please stop if you're doing it. Stop calling back every missed call. Many of them are scam artists. When you call back or when you answer, the Attorney General's office says you're just notifying them that there is a person there that you might be able to scam. Don't call back the caller ID. The only time I've called them back is when several times a year I get phone calls. The number must be slightly different or two numbers twisted, and it's a doctor's office calling a patient. Call us back, we have your test results. And those I will call back and say, you called for so-and-so, I didn't catch the last name, to give their test results, you have a wrong number. And then I'll say, this number is, and they'll say, oh, thank you so much for letting us know that. Because my heart does say, somebody's there panicking, stressed out, waiting to hear their test results. I don't want them waiting forever, and the doctor's office thinks they've already contacted them, and they just don't care, they're not calling in. Charity checklist. Here's precautions that you can take to help you ensure your donation is going to benefit the entities that you think it's going to do. Sort of things for you to do kind of checklist. And then keep a record of your donations. Again, here we have some websites right within the information for you. How many of us would go to this detail, that next to the last one? Ask if the caller is a paid fundraiser. If so, ask the name of the charity they represent, the percentage of your donation that will go to the charity, how much will go to the actual cause to which you're donating, how much will go to the fundraiser, and keep a record of that.
So a paid fundraiser is someone who like calling on behalf of the organization, and they say, I'm calling on behalf of the American Heart Association. That's for donations. Okay, so that considered to be a paid fundraiser. Okay.
And if they're legit, they should have answers to those questions. That doesn't necessarily, if they have answers, mean that they're legit, though. But you've now given yourself pause, and you can either tell them they can mail you some information, or ask for a number where you can call them back. By doing that, you can also call the organization itself and say, I received a call from so-and-so who said they were a paid fundraiser for your organization, and I'm trying to check out if this is legitimate.
Or you
It's a
can say-
different way of turning your thinking around to protect yourself.
Or you could say, I'll just donate directly to the organization itself, instead of directly handed through you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I've
my
had those
preferred way is
conversations.
for me to do it directly
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah, I prefer to donate directly to the organization.
Okay? It goes on. So here's more questions. So look how much information is in here just on this one topic. So if this is something you are concerned or trying to figure out, look how much information is available here. Plus links, legitimate links to other locations. So when I found out about this, man, within 2 months, I had ordered them and was starting doing programs that first year, because this is too good to keep to myself. However, so if your church decides, Pat, we need another 20, we need another 50 books, or you can order them yourself, or you can ask me, I'll order them. And because I was coming here today, I also put in a new order. So I brought 20 copies. Your church had 10 from the other day. That's 30. I've got at least another 10 out in my car if you want them today. Because now I have ordered and I have 10 left at the office in case somebody called me. That'd be good. This comes in Spanish too, if you know Spanish speaking folks.
Having a hard time speaking English.
I didn't learn Spanish, I learned French, and there's there's not too many French folks that I encounter, but every once in a while, I hear a few words of French and I go, oh, okay, let me stop and think, okay? Creme glacée, my favorite food, ice cream. Oh. Charities and the do not call registry is on here. So do not call.gov. Tell them to, you can tell a fundraiser that's calling on behalf of a charity to stop calling you. You can report it to the Ohio Attorney General's office. You can ask to be on the do not call list. What I want you to know about that is when that first came up, people were selling addresses and phone numbers of people, probably 30 plus years ago. And then they started trading addresses and phone numbers. And then giving them, and then getting on there's some kind of site where they can just go in and request phone numbers. And in today's world with technology, they can just set the machine up so that it just calls random numbers until they get live people. So it's really hard, but this whole thing about this is the minute you order that thing from TV that you saw, or in my mom's day, she would have all these little catalogs with all these cute little things that yeah, that she would send for. The minute you use that, you're on a list again somewhere. So when you think the do not call list is not working, it could be because of the patterns of your behavior and the things that you're doing that undo it. Or you can, multiple times, you'll put yourself on that do not call list every year or a couple times a year to see if you can get that happening. But that's what really, that got me about it when I first started about 25 years ago doing a lot of fraud prevention things with extension. When I found that, I went, well, that undoes everything. Here we've done the do not call list. I've been complaining too. Well, that do not call list does not work. And then I had people saying that to me as I was teaching. I went, I just can't say it enough to get the word out. The minute you are ordering things multiple places, and so I have no clue if that applies with like Amazon and eBay and all those kind of places. Does that then get us back on the list? I'm not sure. But it sounds to me like it's possible that it could put you back on lists somewhere again.
It does.
Yeah. And there's usually 2 weeks out of the year that I have no mail except give me some money kind of mail. I start to open up my mailbox, I flip through it, I give me money, give me money, give me money, give me money. I'll send you a blanket.
Yeah.
So the story I want to tell you about that is, and then I wasn't watching time at all, so I'm probably over time here, and I apologize. So I got nickels and dimes periodically on things that are asking me for money. And I'm just going, please just keep your nickels and dimes. How many of these have you sent out? How many thousands of dollars have you sent out in nickels and dimes to get money back?
March of Dimes does that. I've got it.
Yeah, there's multiples that I get those from. Last winter, I was ready to just shred. I started to go, just shred these things, just shred them. My address is on there in multiple places. It's annoying. It takes time to. I no longer do that. I happened to open one. They sent me $1.
Oh my
I went to the
God.
bank and I said, I know this might sound like a funny question, but is this a legitimate dollar? Because I just got it in the mail instead of a dime or a nickel. And they looked at it. Yep, it's real. I'm going, oh my gosh, inflation hit.
Wow.
And if you think you've become the victim of a charity scam, or if a fundraiser has violated do not call rules, you file a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission. That can help detect patterns of wrongdoing and lead to investigations and possibly to prosecutions. Okay, now, how am I gonna find the Federal Trade Commission? Where are you gonna find that information in this book?
In the back.
In the back, yes. And here it is. Oh, and it's on page, you find it? You find it? I'm making you work here.
Uh, 102, page 102.
I got Federal Trade Commission 100.
It's in two places.
Okay.
Good thing I did, this is the first time I taught it that way. They're with me enough here that I can do this to them. I found it on page 100 at the top, and I'm sitting here going, it's not alphabetical, because elder care locator E is under the F. But when you turn back here on 102, there it is. Federal Trade Commission, report financial exploitation.
Cool.
That page 103, legal advice or representation. Did you know there's a senior Medicare patrol? Okay. So, who's got the time? How are we doing on time? It feels like I've talked.
1:31.
I knew it. We started a little bit late, didn't we?
Yeah.
Any rate, so, do you think you're able to find stuff now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Anita knows how to get a hold of me. First lady or pastor knows how to get a hold of me, I'm pretty sure. From when we went to the lupus walk. That's how I met them. I went to the lupus walk. Were you at the lupus walk?
Yes, I was.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, anyway, anything that I can do, I'm happy to do. I brought these, because when I talk fraud prevention, it's often money, and people are leery about talking budgeting or those kind of things. I love to come and talk to people about setting a plan and agreeing that a budget's no more than a plan. What is it that you want to do, or where do you want to be in the next, say, 5 years or 10 years? And what are the tiny steps you need to make as goals to get you there? So don't set one giant, I want $100,000 in my bank account. Okay, I'm gonna say to you, so Pat, what will you need to do first in order to get you there? But I talk to people about tracking their money, and this is one way you can track it. So this is counting your money calendar. I used to charge for these, I'm not charging for them. I found other funds, and I decided it was worthwhile for the community to be able to have this. This talks you through planning your money, basically. Talks about tracking it, and then it has a whole year's worth of calendars, but there's like a sample of, here's how you use this. But once you have this book, you could get a calendar that has much bigger little squares if you want to use a calendar to help track your money. So what bills do I have coming up when that I need to pay? Check mark, I paid it. Oh, I'm not going to, so these are just, you have to plug in the dates yourself to the calendar. It's not for a particular year, but it sort of allows you to track all of that stuff, and you can say, okay, I have to pay my taxes, and I'm gonna do that twice a year. So then I'm gonna do this in January or February, so I'll put it at the end of January, so I know that it's coming up next month. Then I'm gonna do it again in June or July, and you can mark it on your calendar. The only thing you have to do is you have to look at your calendar periodically,
Right.
like once or twice a week, to make sure you're not missing something that's coming up. Can help you to prevent, like, forgetting to pay a bill. Okay? All right.
Yeah.
So if you want one of those today, you're welcome, Kevin.
Do you have anything on how to make your wife let you empty the Amazon cart?
We do have some.
Oh, good, she's got an answer for you.
I happen to be a member of the Healthy Relationships team. I'm not sure if I can find that answer, but it might be a discussion of conversations within your relationship.
That's a whole nother seminar there.
It might be setting your goals. I have more of those in the car.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being patient. Thank you for sharing that with me. I love it when we can have a conversation. Go out there and help others. Help others. And if you need me, I've got business cards in my purse too, if somebody wants a business card, if that's an easier way for you to do that.
Well, thank you so much, and we appreciate you coming out, and on behalf of Revelation Missionary Baptist Church, I want to give you more appreciation. And thank you so much for coming out today.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you back to all of you.
All right.
And what's in that envelope is legit.
Did you need one of these? Did you need one of these? Can you guys share? So we had like one left. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I can't. Can I give this back to the church?